Today we're gonna make cookies, but not just any cookie. We're gonna make that gooey in the center, crispy on the outside cookie that amplifies whatever you put in it. So we could put in like chocolate chips. I want that cookie to taste like chocolate chips. We could put peanut butter in it. I want that cookie to taste like peanut butter. That's the kind of cookie that we're going for. And it is surprising how many recipes online leave me wanting more of that. So what I'm wondering is, what can we do with that core base to make it just this irresistibly amazing cookie that you can make time and time again, and you can make it your own. That's what the goal is today. Okay, first things first, we need to aerate the butter and incorporate the sugar in a process called creaming. It's important that the butter is at room temperature. It can be cold, but it's just gonna take you way longer to cream it together if the butter isn't room temperature. So ideally, you take your butter out a couple hours before you're going to start baking. There we go. All right, so after you've creamed together the sugar and the butter, you wanna just scrape down that side of the bowl. Make sure you get all of that goodness in the middle, because we're going to add our egg next, the one egg, and we're also going to add our vanilla. But first things first, you wanna add the egg and get that fully incorporated before you add the vanilla. You wanna have your speed on high for this. You really wanna whip all of that protein into the butter and the sugar, because you're basically forcing more fat into something that's already pretty fatty. So you wanna get as much air in there as you can. And done. So you'll know the egg incorporation is done when the batter stops sinking back down into the bowl. It'll just like stick to the side. Sometimes your fats will separate at this point. If that happens to you, just throw it in the fridge for a little while and you'll fix it almost instantly. Final step is to add all of our dry ingredients. That's gonna be our flour, our soda, and our salt. Some people prefer to use a spatula and just fold it in. I find that there's not too much of a difference, so I will usually use the mixer on really low and then just watch it and make sure that as soon as everything is just incorporated, I take it out at that point. You don't want to develop too much gluten from that flour, but you also want to keep a lot of that air into your cookie. That's how we're gonna get like that nice light cookie. So making sure that if you are using your paddle mixer like I am, you just let it go long enough that the dough just comes together. So now that we've got our batter just together, we're just going to scoop out a few of the cookies onto a parchment lined baking sheet. And then we'll toss those into a preheated oven. And those will probably bake for like 8 minutes, but it kind of depends. 8 and 10 is usually the average. Okay, here is our very baseline cookie. We're talking white flour, white sugar, egg, butter, nothing fancy. Right away, the first thing I noticed when I took these out of the oven was like, holy moly, they spread so much. These things are very, very thin. Although that being said, they look beautiful. I love how blonde they are on the top. There's like no burning on the bottom. They've got this lovely kind of golden ring around the outside. When I bend them, they have a little bit of a give. You can tell they're kind of gooey on the inside. The outside does have a little bit of a crisp. You can't hear it, but it's definitely there. Like, it doesn't imprint when I push my finger into the outside. Okay, enough about how it looks. Let's see how this bad boy tastes. Holy shit. The first thing I taste in this is baking soda. That's like all I can, I mean, there is sugar in there. I can definitely taste the sugar, but the majority of this cookie is baking soda. And not in necessarily a bad way, but it definitely takes me back to when I was a kid and we would go to like a 7-Eleven or a grocery store and just pick up those like 6-pack of sugar cookies. This is like definitely that cookie. It's just so bitter, but then there's like the sweetness hit to it. So I think the things I want to test out with this cookie are going to have to be, number one, let's reduce that bitterness of that baking soda because that is intense. Number two, let's see if we can get some more depth by adding different types of sugar into this cookie. White sugar's fine, but it is really just like intense. And I want to see if we can add more depth and maybe get some more gooiness out of our sugar than white sugar will allow. The last thing I want to see is if we can get a little more crisp around the edge of these cookies. I think we got a nice crisp, but it doesn't snap as much as I want it to. So I think the only thing we can do there is mess around with the fat that's in this cookie. So let's do that. Let's do a few batches focusing on the sugar, the butter, which is our fat, and the amount of baking soda we're using in this. That being said, I will definitely enjoy these cookies. But okay, enough about that. Let's try some more. So because baking soda has such a high pH, that's where we're getting that bitter flavor from. In this next iteration, we're gonna try to remove a lot of that flavor from the equation. And I think the only two options we really have are either remove baking soda altogether or incorporate another element or ingredient that will ideally neutralize a lot of that high pH, high bitterness. So what I want to do for these next two batches is make one that has no baking soda at all and make another one that has cream of tartar actually incorporated into the batch with the baking soda, because cream of tartar has a relatively low pH that should neutralize a lot of that bitterness. Here we go. We have our no soda little nugget, our first batch with only baking soda, and our baking soda plus cream of tartar cookie. Look at this lovely line. Obviously, we have proven that we do indeed need baking soda in this product. Look at the size of this little nugget we've got going on here. That's the only word I have to describe this thing. It's like we just took a little scoop of our batter and it barely spread out, versus our original, just all soda, obviously like very, very thin, and everything just spread out. But you can tell when we added that lower pH, the cream of tartar, the cookie just kind of, it like knew its boundaries, it knew its limits, and it just stayed within them. Look at the size of this perfect little cookie. Yeah, it like browned a little bit more on the bottom, which I think we could improve depending on how long we just let it sit in the oven. But overall, I think this is the superior cookie to this. And obviously our tiny little sad nugget with no leavening at all. But clearly we need to do a taste test, so let's try out. Obviously, I'm gonna go with the one that I'm most excited about, which is our crackly little cream of tartar cookie. Okay, so first thing I noticed, the baking soda flavor, that bitterness is almost gone. The other thing I noticed is that there is just so much more sugar to this thing than I thought there was. It's just, pow, it's like sugar bomb. So very sugary, but I do appreciate the fact that it's got a little bit more density to it than the original, which was like, you know, we can break this one too, I guess, whatever, we might as well. This is obviously so much thinner than our cream of tartar, and if you're going for a super thin cookie, this could be great for you. But if you want something that's got a little bit more body, which is kind of what I like in a cookie, I'm definitely going this angle. Okay, just for funsies, I'm going to give the no leaven a try, but I'm not excited about this. I'm gonna use a cookie, but it's like butter. It's fine if that's what you're looking for, but if you're looking for something that has like, isn't quite as dense, this very dense cookie, I would definitely lean in the like cream of tartar slash baking soda camp, which is, I think, the direction we're gonna take these cookies. But let's definitely see in the next batch if we can fix that like just intensely sweetness, because all I taste is white sugar. It is bombarding. The next few batches I'm gonna test are going to be one that is completely made with brown sugar. Brown sugar has molasses added. It's just like white sugar that has molasses added to it, but because it adds molasses, it's going to give us that like extra gooiness. And I'm also going to make a batch with 100% dextrose. Dextrose is a really simple sugar, but it's about 25% less like sweetness than your standard table or cane sugar. Dextrose, sucrose, brown sugar. Dextrose, very nuggety again, like just a little blob. And I would imagine that the reason it is so globby and blobby has to do with the way it came together in the creaming process. And I think it's just because it's just such a dense sugar in general. There's just not a lot of places for the butter to go. It just kind of gets stuck. It almost reminds me of a scone in that way. Like scones come together very similarly, where it's just like chunks of butter, and then it kind of stays in its like neat little, whatever, scones are neater than this, but reminds me a lot of that consistency. We'll see how it tastes, but obviously the bottom of this got very dark. It was only in for about 8 minutes, but clearly that was way too long for this, and the top is so blonde. It's like, this was very hard to tell if it was done or not. Comparing this to our white sugar, which obviously white sugar is going to dissolve the fastest and spread and allow a lot of those spreading agents to happen a lot faster. It's no surprise that this is thinner than our dextrose. Moving from the white sugar into our brown sugar, because brown sugar has molasses in it, it is a little bit thicker, which probably prevents it from spreading too far, but does still have a little bit of give, right? That's probably why we're getting this result, which is like, again, it's just really nice. It's like crackly. It's kind of got a nice browning on the bottom. So this is kind of more what I'm leaning toward when I try to find like the best cookie. Digging into these, let's give these a try. We'll start with dextrose. Obviously very cakey on the inside. You know what? It is kind of scony. It does have a little bit of like a scony texture to it. It's obviously a lot lighter than a scone. A scone is a little bit more crumbly. This definitely has some crumble to it, but I would say this is more in that camp. It's not very sugary at all. If anything, I'm getting more, this is very butter forward. So if I were making a scone that I wanted to be really light, I might consider using dextrose and making them this way, because that is very good. Obviously, we've tried the white sugar cookie before. It's still got that nice gooiness when you bend it. I'm not going to try it again. And let's give our brown sugar a whirl here. Okay, so we bend it. Oh, the inside, it's not nearly as poofy. That is a good cookie. It doesn't taste like a scone. It's definitely butter forward. You don't get that like sugary taste that you get when you have white sugar only. It was definitely more developed. It's a little bit too rich for what I would look for in an everyday cookie, but I think if we incorporated some of that brown sugar element into our final, it would be a really nice balance between like the crunchiness of the sugar, the white sugar, and the like intensely luxurious flavor that we get from brown sugar. But I also do want to see what happens if we incorporate some of the dextrose, because dextrose is just like hardly, and like I said, there's almost no sugar flavor in here at all. So I wonder if the dextrose would balance out some of the intense sweetness of the white sugar and the brown sugar together. The core element to cookies is that they are hydrated by their fat, very much unlike cakes that are hydrated mostly by water. So far, we've only been using butter to hydrate all of our cookies, and butter is between 80 and 85% fat, meaning that the rest of the 15% is water. My question is, what happens if we lean into that fat spectrum more in these next couple of batches by using coconut oil and vegetable shortening, which both are far closer to that 100% mark? My goal being, can we get that crispy outside edge while maintaining that gooey center? All right, coconut oil, butter, shortening in a row. First thing I noticed is the amount of darkening we have on either end of the spectrum, really. Both are incredibly dark on the bottom. These were tricky to find out when they were done. I feel like we had a similar outcome with our dextrose, where the top was just so much lighter than the bottom. It was almost deceiving. The other thing I noticed right away is just the amount of spreading that happened with both of these. Like this has a nice crackle to it, but the coconut oil almost has nothing. It's also just like very dense, but I guess we'll give it a taste and see how this goes. I'm a little nervous, but I think it'll be fine. I like have so much grease on my hands just from picking that thing up. It's like a grease bomb. First thing I noticed, oh my gosh, it's so greasy. Second thing I noticed is like, that is a coconut cookie. You can taste nothing but coconut in that cookie. It is overwhelming how much coconut there is in there. But that being said, it is not bad. If you like coconut, that's solid. That's a solid cookie. That's just not what I'm looking for today, so I will probably not be leaning toward the coconut oil spectrum. Okay, let's skip. We've already tried the butter cookie before, so let's try the shortening and see how that goes. Again, first thing I noticed is like we've got a really nice crackle on this cookie, so I'm actually excited to see how this one tastes. That is definitely less oily. The only thing I would say about shortening is this tastes like I'm eating a like soft pie crust. It's very dense. It definitely has that like pie crust flavor to it. And it's a little burnt on the bottom too, so I guess I'm getting some of that, but it's definitely like a more pie flavor than I'd be interested in terms of like a cookie. I'm happy we did this test, but I'm leaning more toward the butter end of spectrum just because it is that like rich, inviting flavor that I think you get from cookies. I think that's gonna be the best choice for this. Sticking with butter. Butter's best. So we're going with a combination of brown sugar, cane sugar, and dextrose to increase the depth of the actual cookie flavor, give us that like richness of that like molasses. We'll get a little bit of crunch from the cane sugar, and we'll get a little bit of a sweetness suppression from dextrose. Awesome. Give this one more scrape down. Time to add our dry ingredients. So we've got our regular flour. We'll just fold everything in again, really slow. We've got our flour. We're going to add milk powder to this mix. The milk powder is going to give us that nice, like refreshing taste. It's also got the added benefit of a little bit more sugar and a little more protein. So we'll get a little bit of that chewy texture that I think we could always use a little more of. So we'll add that in. And then we're going to stick with our cream of tartar and soda blend and salt. And we'll just mix it in until it just comes together. Done. Great. I like to just fold in my chocolate chunks, so we're gonna do that next. We'll just take all of this good stuff off here, and we'll just fold those right in. Smells awesome. Now we'll take this, put it on some cookie sheets, bake them up, and see what they taste like. Ba-ba-da-ba. These things are beautiful. Going into this experiment, I wasn't sure if we'd be able to find a solid recipe, but these I'm so happy with. They are a nice brown on the bottom. They've got a nice golden color on top. Not too dark, just enough. And look at the way these are. Look how beautiful they are. They're so good. Oh my God. Oh, look at that beautiful footage. Look at that little goober. It's just gonna drop. I don't care. Drop on it. Sure, go for it. These look fucking amazing, and I don't want to talk about them anymore. I just want to eat them. So here we go. No baking soda flavor, thank God. I'm not getting too much sweetness. There's like a hint of sweet, but it's not like overpoweringly sweet. They're gooey in the middle. They've got a nice, very light crisp on the outside, but it's not like It's not like I'm like busting into a biscotti. It's so good. Yes, please. I have nothing else to say about these things other than they're amazing and you should definitely make them the next time you're making drop cookies. But also just for funsies, I decided to make more cookies because why not? We also made a peanut butter cookie and a double dark chocolate cookie. These look amazing. I have not tried them yet. We are going to try them together, I guess. So first and foremost, I love peanut butter. It's so great. It's probably one of my favorite things in the world. And they're like gooey in the middle. They've got that like, the amount of crackle on top of these is incredible. They're a little denser than I probably would have imagined them to be, but that's probably due to the fact there is just a lot of fat in peanut butter. But oh my God, it's like still that nice sugary taste, but the addition of peanut butter is just unstoppable. Shut your face, that's so good. I can't even, but I'm definitely gonna try this. Look at the size of this cakey guy. This looks like a brownie, like straight up, this looks like a cookie brownie combo, and I'm very excited to just taste it. Yep. These are incredible. If you love chocolate and brownies and cookies, definitely try to make these. And also, while you're at it, please also make the chocolate chip cookies because they're incredible. I'm very excited about these. I hope you make them. They're very easy. The only thing I did for the peanut butter was add 100 grams of peanut butter to the mix right after I creamed everything together. The only thing I did for the double dark chocolate was replace the milk powder with the cocoa powder. And you end up with this like amazing, fudgy, cakey, beautiful cookie. It's so very good, and I hope you try it the next time you're interested in making a drop cookie. I will have all of these recipes up on Kitchenomicon.com. Links are all down in the description below. Okay, go conjure up something delicious. Bye! Peanut butter and double dark.
Wow, that's gross. Please say something else instead of that.
Eyebrows.